Hello friends, and welcome back to my homestead. Today is middle of August, another hot and humid day in New England, but it's time to harvest tomato seeds. So I have gone in my garden and picked a few of these beautiful San Marzanos plum tomatoes that I absolutely love to grow for my tomato sauce. Now, I often receive questions. What is the difference between a heirloom or a hybrid tomato? Big difference, especially when it comes to saving seeds. So let's discuss positives, negatives, and what it really means between a hybrid and an heirloom. An heirloom tomato is something that's passed on generation to generation. You know, heirloom, that's what it comes from, an heirloom. So it is an open pollinator, which means they can pollinate with other plants, tomato plants in its neighborhood, and it's going to produce same type of tomato plant fruit year after year. So the positives are they're absolutely delicious. They are known for their taste. But sometimes they have those odd, funny shaped tomatoes, you know, the heirloom looking tomatoes, and they are perfect for backyard gardens. The negatives of heirloom tomatoes is that they are more susceptible to diseases, and they tend to grow less tomatoes per tomato plant. Now, what is a hybrid? A hybrid is something that they were pollinated and grown in a very controlled environment, often hand pollinated between more than two parent plants to create a very, very specific tomato that will be disease resistant, will yield a lot of tomatoes, very uniform shape, and often they are ripened all at the same time. And those are perfect for mass production for like a market garden. Now, the problem is with those, you cannot save those seeds because those seeds the next year may produce totally different fruit than originally designed because they will already pollinate it with other plants. So I do not save seeds from hybrids. Those are purchased at the store. I save seeds from heirloom tomato. Even though they may produce a little less and they may produce, you know, funny shaped looking tomatoes, it doesn't matter because they're not for show, they're for our consumption. So that is the main difference. Please excuse the noise in the background. We on a homestead either something fixing or constructing again, so it's always noises either of animals or some other equipment. Okay, so I harvested a few tomato from my tomato plants, and it's the end of the season, and I tend to save the best, the lower on the bush, because they tend to yield the better tomato. Unfortunately, they were picked by my family and eaten, so I'm stuck with what's left over. And on top of that, the squirrels are attacking my garden, eating everything in sight. So let me show you how I'm going to save seeds for my following year using my own homegrown heirloom tomatoes. Okay, so what am I going to need today? So I'm going to need a knife, which I'm going to show you how I'm going to use it. I'm going to need a little bit of water, and I try to use non-chlorinated water, and again I'm going to explain to you in a minute why. And then I'm going to need a little dish that where I like to save my seeds. Not long-term save seeds, but for the next 3-4 days, and I'm going to show you why. I like to use a glass container because we're going to be fermenting these seeds. Yes, fermenting, and that is why we need non-chlorinated water, because chlorinated water may mess it up. So if you live in a town where the water is chlorinated from the tap, you can always save a little bit of rainwater or just use filtered water. Okay, So I have a paper towel because that's what I'm gonna cover my seeds with while they ferment, and I always mark what it is so I know what it's going to be. So here is a very ripe tomato. It's nice and soft, and I don't like to cut. So here's a very nice ripe tomato. I don't like to cut through the whole thing because if I cut it, there's a chance of accidentally cutting the seeds themselves. So I just like to cut on the edge, and kind of like open it up with my fingers. And you will notice that there are chambers on the side. So there's a thick wall. All right, I'm going to save that over here. But I need this little spot where the seeds are. And that's what I'm going to be putting into my container. The seeds are very small. Very small, okay? Let me open another one. See how there's another pocket inside? See those little holes? I'm going to open that. And I'm going to scoop it all in here. All right. So all my seeds are in here. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to pour a little bit of water. I'm going to mix it all. Going to mix it all with water, and I'm going to let it sit on my counter for about 3-4 days. And in those 3-4 days, the seeds will lose that little membrane that covering each and every little seed. It's going to loosen up and will be able to be washed off before I store it for long-term storage. I store my seeds in a cool, dry place. That's usually in my refrigerator. After they completely dried and everything like that, I put them in an envelope and I mark them with the name of my tomato. Okay, so they're gonna sit there and they're going to, you know what, let me see if I can get another tomato. Let me see if I can get another tomato ready. Please excuse the noise in the background because I have some construction going on my homestead. On a homestead, we're either repairing something or building something, and that is pretty much continuous. Okay, so I got my seeds out right here. Gonna wash them all. Okay. All right, that looks good. So again, like I said, I'm going to cover them with a paper towel, which is labeled, and I'm gonna let that sit on my counter for the next 3-4 days. So let me show you. Okay, so this particular tomato seed's been sitting on my counter for 3 days, and you will notice that on the top it's creating a little, like almost like a mold forming. It's because all those tomatoes are literally fermenting and they are swimming in this water. I'm going to let them ferment for 1 more day, and tomorrow I'm going to wash everything, rinse everything. Those that are not good seeds I will throw away, and all the good ones I will be saving, drying them. So what the fermentation process did was that it removed that slimy little membrane that was covering each and every seed. So at this point, it's all washed up. I am going to put them on the parchment paper to dry. So I took a plate and I just put parchment paper on a plate. Get the excess water out. So I remember my parents always used to dry their seeds on a newspaper, but I found that in the newspaper they tend to stick to the to the paper, and then it's very difficult to peel them off. So I'm going to try to use, so I tried to put them on a single layer, but they're kind of sticking with each other, and I'm using one hand here. Okay, so that should be okay. All right, so I need to label this again. Okay, so about 2 weeks this has been drying in my house. And see how I like how it did not stick to the newspaper, because this is a parchment paper. So at this time I feel safe enough to actually store it away. So what I like to use is a regular envelope that I can seal, and I always label what it is. And I'm gonna put the seeds in the envelope, and I will put it in my fridge. I have a special box in the fridge that I keep all of my seeds over winter, and that's how I'm gonna store it. That's it. So the preservation of my seeds process is complete. I hope you guys are encouraged and learned something new.